Welcome to Part 3, Evaluation and Communication. I begin here with a quote by Nietzsche that asks us to think of evaluation not as some instrumental procedure, but as critical to our understandings of what we value in the assessment process. How can we be intentional about what it is we value about our students' learning and communicate to them about it so that their experiences of our courses are more than hollow? Indeed, evaluation is probably the single most important influence on student achievement of learning objectives, since it clarifies what learning goals are valuable and how they can be met. Maybe we can be more practical in defining assessment. We could see it as a process of examining evidence, making judgments, and providing feedback about student performance and learning that can be shared. A few caveats are necessary, however. First, evaluation is not grading. Grading is a process of ranking achievement, and it certainly communicates something to students about their performance. Ultimately, however, it communicates very little without a complete evaluation of how they performed relative to our criteria. To be effective, evaluations and their metrics must be clear, well communicated, and clearly understood by students so they can act on them. Towards that end, rubrics are particularly helpful. However, rubrics are not templates. There are faculty and students alike who think of rubrics as outlines, say in a paper assignment, ones that enable students to merely fill in the blanks. Rubrics instead are really those mechanisms by which we communicate to students what our goals are, typically in the form of lists or tables. Let's explore more about rubrics. Why use rubrics? One reason is that they accommodate any type of assessment, since they are merely the transparent communication of the criteria valued by any assignment, and you can do so in any format. They set goals for students, and this can motivate them. Hopefully that motivation is not just merely an extrinsic motivation, one for a good grade, but also intrinsic, an investment in the deep learning and the course material that we want. If we are transparent about our criteria for ourselves, our students, as well as our co-instructors and teaching assistants, evaluations are likely to be more valid and reliable. Rubrics also enable us to demand more and clearly distinguish between good and great work, which can help alleviate grade inflation. It can reduce student anxiety, stress, and cheating, since it helps students to be less confused and more preparatory for assignments. They also allow for efficient feedback. Some rubrics have prepared language for different levels of performance, and instructors may choose to simply circle that language. They require clear understanding and engagement. That is, rubrics are only as good as they are read and understood. If students are not participating and involved in the learning that the rubrics entail, they are not likely to use them very well. Lastly, they can be constructed collaboratively with students to make sure that students are both understanding of the criteria and help to participate in shaping its dimensions. This is one example of a rubric that I've used for general writing assignments in my class, typically longer form assignments. It's an holistic rubric. There are no points or percentages, and it's adapted from Marshall Aiken in history, who uses a similar rubric. He adapted it from someone else, and you're welcome to use it and adapt it to your own purposes. Like most, it has criteria on the left and levels of performance across the top. It has the advantages of being flexible with weighting while still giving students a target for their work. And it's less work for me since I can merely circle cells if I want. The disadvantage is it's wordy. Arguably, some cells are less distinguishable from others, less personalized, and it could be more streamlined. Towards that end, here is a single point rubric that is much more simple. Its advantages is that it's elegant in its simplicity. It can involve weightings and ratings, as you see in the middle columns. It allows for qualitative feedback that is personalized, and it's great, therefore, for student, self, or peer evaluation. Its disadvantages is that it takes a bit more time to complete and personalize, since the comments are not prepared in advance. This is from Stacy Johnson, and here at the Center for Teaching, and this is used for a discussion board where students rate each other on their discussion board posts. You can see that there are clear criteria, and various levels of proficiency across the top with cells for clear notation below. Whatever rubrics you use, you may want to begin with Bloom's taxonomy to clarify exactly what it is you hope that assignment will achieve, and then try to specify what you mean by analysis or evaluation or creation. Communicating evaluations does differ across different types of assignments and courses and teaching contexts. However, students tend to prefer the following. They tend to prefer frequent communication so that they can have up-to-the-minute, or at least up-to-the-week, assessments of how they are doing and what they can do to improve. They like assignments and evaluations to be specific so that they can have very concrete feedback with which to improve. They like it to be meaningful, that is, not vague or not really relevant to the course material. They like it to be balanced, not merely a critique, but also support and encouragement for those things they've done well. They like it to be timely so that it can come before the next assignment is due. And they like it to be collaborative. That is, they like to participate in the creation of evaluations and self and peer evaluations. For our online tool highlight, I'll merely note that Brightspace has various feedback tools. One is rubrics, where you can use rubrics in Brightspace, associate them with goals and assignments, and even the grading book. One caveat, however, once you know what your assignments are and you have your rubric, it's probably best in Brightspace to form the rubric first, and then create the assignments that utilize it. It's just a workflow issue that Brightspace prefers, and it will save you some time. The second tool is the audio-video feedback. Here in this dialog box you can see on the screen, there's an arrow pointing to a tiny little icon that looks like a play button. If you touch that Insert Stuff link, it will make available any number of things that you can insert in that dialog box, including audio and video files. For more information on how to use these to increase social presence and to be effective in providing students good communication about their evaluations, please check out these websites as well as this article in the Chronicle by Fiac and Garcia. For our faculty spotlight, I'll mention Danny Picard in Medicine, Health, and Society. In her course, Medicine, Technology, and Society, she has a 5-page book review essay, and she normally provides feedback to students in one-on-one office hour conversations. She wanted to replicate that online and did so by using the Brightspace audio-visual feedback tool, the Insert Stuff button that I mentioned. She was able to record one example of that feedback, and you can find that here at the link on the slide. It might be a great example of the ways that we can offer really detailed feedback to our students about their projects and still provide some social presence with them, even as they work online. To close out this part of the module, we have a reflective question. What steps can you take to clarify for yourself and for your students the purpose and criteria of your assessments?